Many years ago, I thought it would be fun to try and level a class in Final Fantasy XIV while not giving that class any gear other than its weapon. Back then, I chose the Lancer and Dragoon class. After attempting a few fates and losing, I found myself in the South Shroud in Gridania where a certain dungeon is located. Fast forward to today, and the Lancer has not made any real progress, and I find myself now leveling every class to its max in an attempt to keep a consistent YouTube upload schedule. Hello, I'm Itty Bitty Tivy, and I'm on a journey to max every combat, crafting, gathering, and limited job in Final Fantasy XIV. This is not a difficult thing to do, but it is time consuming. For the foreseeable future, I will not only be using the Deep Dungeon Palace of the Dead to level up my combat classes, but I will also be doing so solo in an attempt to join the ranks of the few who have made it to the bottom floor 200. To begin, you must first be level 17 and find a quest with the blue plus sign in New Gridania. Since I have done that years ago, I will not be showing you where that is. Palace of the Dead is what's known as a deep dungeon. It has its own mechanics for progression as well as its own special item system. It can be tackled with a group or on your own. It is advised to begin as a group until you find enough in-dungeon resources to be able to hold your own. Now, this is not a guide, and I am not experienced enough in Palace of the Dead to even make a bad one, so let's see how far I can get with mostly blind in a class I don't even have a hotbar set up for. We start at floor 11, not because I had a previous save as a samurai, but because I apparently didn't turn on the stream until the first set of floors were done. Things are going very smoothly to the point that by floor 14 I'm capping on dungeon items called pomanders and have to begin cycling them to keep up. Upon entering floor 15, I see that a pomander of intuition lets me know that there is a piece of accursed hoard calling. The accursed hoard is special treasure chests that, when found, can be extracted from the deep dungeon for special loot box styled rewards. The early floors of Palace of the Dead won't have exciting rewards, but as you venture deeper, the accursed hoard rewards become better, offering valuable armors that can be sold, mounts, minions, and much more. On floor 17, I get hit with an HP reduction debuff. As you explore the Palace of the Dead, random floors will have randomized debuffs or buffs. These can range from haste all the way down to no knockbacks. It is important to know what each debuff does and how to handle yourself appropriately. Should the debuffs become too debilitating, you could use a Pomander of Serenity to get rid of that floor's buffs and debuffs. At floor 20, we get to the floral boss Spurge. Every 10th floor you will be in a boss fight. These things hit hard and may have mechanics to follow. It is advised to have pomanders and potions ready to deal with any threat. After easily defeating the boss, we can now head to the exit and decide whether we return to the surface to turn in accursed hordes or continue to the next set of floors. You may leave any time between floor sets and return to where you left off, so long as you did not fail the duty and you are below floor 101. After leaving a floor set, you will be rewarded with experience, some money, accursed horde bags, and tombstones if you are an appropriate level. Earlier, I said you should tackle this challenge as a group. This reasoning is so that you have a chance to learn how the dungeon works, the enemy types and their movesets, what each floor set's boss will be, and so that you have a chance to level up your deep dungeon specific Aetherpool gear. Aetherpool gear comes with both a weapon and armor, and these are the sole equipment stats the deep dungeon cares about. You can equip these stats by finding silver and blue treasure chests while exploring the deep dungeon. The changes will only become permanent once you complete that floor set. On floor 26, I pop an extra Pomander of Sight. This allows me not only to see the floor room layout, but also any traps that might be plaguing the floor. These traps can make or break a deep dive and should be read up on to better deal with any you will trip. On floor 30, we fight the multi-headed dragon boss. This guy will chase you around and throw AoE puddles on the ground where you stand. Then, after 4 puddles, we'll run to the center of the room for a room-wide attack. It is best to have the potions you get during exploration to heal up any damage before it becomes fatal. Something I haven't talked about yet is how to make progress in the deep dungeon. Every floor has a device marked by a key on the map and only turns on after an unknown amount of enemies on that floor are defeated. This makes fighting and exploring very important mechanics in Palace of the Dead. Progression in the early floors of Palace of the Dead is similar to normal leveling outside the deep dungeon. At floor 1, you start at level 1 and must defeat enemies to level up. In Palace of the Dead, you can only reach level 60 if you are using a class that you are unfamiliar with. Palace of the Dead is a great tool to use while getting the hang of a new job's actions. The actions are also given to you as you level up, even if you have not unlocked that specific action through its related quest. At floor 40 is a ghost that likes to drop Shadow Realm puddles, then get some friends to attack, then scream at you when you kill them. Rinse and repeat, then you're all done. In the later floors of 41 to 50, you will encounter Nightmare Dragons. These guys are not only tanky but can also throw AoE attacks outside of combat, so keep an eye out. It is a good idea on boss floors to use special pomanders of Strength and Steel. Strength boosts the damage you do, and Steel reduces the amount of damage you take by 40%. Be aware that the 40% reduction does not apply to certain abilities that do damage based on percentage, things like the Landmine Tramp for example. Upon beating the boss and leaving the dungeon at floors 50 and 100, you will receive an item known as Gilmorn Potsherds. These can be traded for various goods, but for solo runs, the best items to use them on are sustaining potions. These give a short 30-second regen and are vital for non-healing classes in making it out alive. Floors 51 to 100 are what I consider a sort of honing ground. First, you've learned what's necessary to survive Palace of the Dead, and now you are level 60 and you can begin refining your rotation to help take down deep dungeon enemies. With no EXP incentive, all that's left is to kill what needs killing, then move on. If you are greedy like me, you can also check red and gold chests for Pomander Overflow to use anything helpful. By now, if you've been grabbing every Pomander, you will have a good inventory of them, using only what can be used and replaced as you find it. In Palace of the Dead, there are 3 Pomanders that turn you into powerful creatures, but the Pomander that I, and probably many others, love the most is the Pomander of Rage. This turns you into Manticore that can one-shot just about any enemy. It is important to remember that this only works so long as the floor doesn't have a no knockback debuff. If there's no debuff and you find a chest with an extra rage in it, that's a quick floor to me. A very common floor debuff is Gloom. This debuff reduces the amount of damage enemies take and also increases the amount they deal. This debuff, if coupled with certain other debuffs, can be run killers, so consider a Pomander of Serenity to get rid of it. Speaking of run killers, let's talk about Mimics. These guys disguise themselves as treasure chests and can absolutely ruin you. They can cast an interruptible spell called Infatuation that gives you a Pox debuff. This debuff acts as a poison, hurting you and completely stopping your HP regeneration. So if you find one, kill it quick or get ready to use a Pomander of Purity to cure the pox. Floor 60 has a dude on a horse. He will drop dark DOT puddles and charge at you for a knockback. Position yourself so the knockback doesn't bump you into a puddle and you're good to go. Skipping to the floor 70 boss, you will see a Leviathan wannabe. A good habit is to move him out of his water puddles and be sure to avoid his AoE attacks. Beyond that, there's nothing special here. Palace of the Dead is a place that rewards game knowledge. For example, these Cyclops guys. They have a swing attack that doesn't have a visible AoE marker, but knowing the name of its attack and what that means can save you a lot of hurt in the future. Floor 80 has a Behemoth. Be sure to stay close to him to avoid his room-wide attack when he meanders to a corner, and stay away from the tornadoes because they will suck you in. At low HP, he will begin casting a hard-hitting Ecliptic Meteor. If you can't heal, you can survive one of them since they do 80% HP, but kill him before that happens, yeah? There's really not much to say about the regular floors until we get above 100. So for the floor 90 boss, the strategy is to take down the smaller red bombs as they appear. Eventually, the boss will start slow casting a big hit and spawn a blue bomb that gets knocked back easy. You want to push that bomb into the boss to interrupt its casting, or you can interrupt it yourself the first couple of times if you can't get the mob to the boss. Watch out for the untargetable AoE mobs, as they are just there to hurt you. The floors 91 to 100 are filled to the gills with undead enemies, so if you find extra Pomanders of Curryboos hanging around, then you can make for some easy floors. Finally, you will arrive on floor 100, and it is time to talk about the other 2 transformation creatures you can turn into. The first is by using the Pomander of Lust to go full on succubus. They have an AoE fire attack that stacks levels of vulnerability, up to 5. The floor 100 boss will also summon killable minions that will wake up after a short time. This is where the third transformation, the Karibu, comes in. Using the Pomander of Resolution, you can turn angelic with the power to purge undead things, making it extremely useful on the floor 100 boss to get rid of its reviving minions. If played smart, you can reach the end of the basic floors and progress into the challenge floors of Palace of the Dead. Due to the strict rules of Palace of the Dead, if you want to get down to floor 200, a good strategy to develop is knowing when to fight. To open the way to the next floor is a smart and try to tackle just one enemy at a time. When the floor is open, it can be a good idea to try to avoid other enemies, especially on later floors, as each encounter is dangerous enough to end your run. Something else to note is that from 101 and beyond, the enemies will more or less get recycled, letting you fight their powered up versions. Keep your head on a swivel and you won't get ambushed by this goblin adventurer like I did and have to start all the way back from level 1.
What the fuck? Where did you come from? Oh, I lost. That's bullshit. I didn't see the goblin adventurer. Where did he come from?
So that was the start of my current leveling adventure. I'm going to keep going and hopefully before Dawn Trail I can get at least this done. The only thing to get leveled up at this week was Samurai going from level 52 to level 56. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you would like to see me delving into Palace of the Dead as a machinist now, come check out Itty Bitty Tivy at Twitch. There's a link in the description. I hope you enjoyed the video and I'll see you in the Deep Dungeon.